Alright, we're going to start out by taking our fabric. Okay. Make sure that the graphic is down. Now, I laid out a template here, and in this template, located right here, is a gap. You can see that gap right here. No sewing is to occur in this gap. Next, what we do is put the graphic side down, and you record where that gap is. You use a pen. I'm just going to put two lines where that represents that opening. I'll show you here. See it? Now you could trace out the entire dashed line if you want, if you need that. If you don't worry about it. But if you practiced enough, you should be able to sew a straight line. Now you take graphic 1, have it up, graphic 2 with the second piece of fabric with your graphic on it, place it down. So you're sandwiching, this is the side where the graphic is, side of the graphic is, and you're sandwiching the two together. And this should be up so you can see this gap. This material does curl on the outside edge, not as bad as the black, but just warn you, the black does curl quite bad. Another thing you might want to be wary of is if you look here, I might want to drop this one down so the two Spider-Men are kind of close on both sides. You're going to have to take a light table in order for that lining up the graphic to happen. If it's on black fabric, use your best judgment. Okay, cool. Let's go over to the sewing machine with this sandwich. Okay, so same terminology as in the practice. There is an arm that I can put up and down. Okay, so I'm going to use the word put down the arm, not the foot. That's so students don't jam on the gas. So right now the arm is up, the needle is up. You'll also notice, if you haven't noticed, that there's this little tray. I'm going to take that tray out. I'll feed in the two pieces of fabric, grab the two pieces of thread, put my arm down. I'm using black on white, so black thread on white fabric for a reason for the video. You do not have to do that. Just use the same color thread, whatever fabric you use. With the two pieces of thread held, but not too tight, I'm going to roll stitch. Again, roll stitching is the rotating of this handle towards me twice. Roll stitch. So when you hear that, that just means hold these threads, roll stitch twice. And then what I'm going to do is just sew gently forward until I hit that gap. Now what I like to do is when I hit that gap, I'll use this lever, press it down, and what that does is go backwards a couple and then let go of the button and go forward a little. That will reinforce the edge of that gap. Roll stitch until the needle is out of the fabric. Lift up the arm. Advance. Put the arm down. And roll stitch twice. In this case, the thread is being held not by you, but by the fabric ahead of it. Alright, so now your job, and this is quite fun, is to keep the outside edges from rolling and then sewing along the outside edge. All the stitch marks are technically going on the inside, so you're not going to see if you mess up too bad. This is a good project for students. I do this every year with them. This time I'm making a study video so they can see what it looks like ahead of time. When you get to the edge, again, I would get in the habit of doing this. That just reinforces that area. With the needle buried, lift up the arm, rotate the fabric, put down the arm, and sew along that edge. Again, when you get to the edge, back stitch a couple, bury your needle, lift up your arm, rotate the fabric. Put down your arm, sorry. And continue to do this all the way around. And once in a while, stop, realign your fabric, continue to sew. When you hit that gap, reverse, forward, take your needle out of your fabric, lift up your arm, advance it past the gap, put your arm down, roll stitch twice, and sew again. Good. That was step one. You should have something that looks like this. And you notice in that area, I have no stitch. Now, this will be reinforced a little bit in this area anyway. So if you don't get it reinforced on both sides, that's okay. It would be beneficial to have it reinforced here and reinforced here, reinforced here and reinforced here. But if you did not, don't worry about it. Just maybe learn from my mistake there. Alright, let's go on to the next step. Alright, checking your work. Taking a pencil. I should now be able to put my pencil through there and come out the other side. With the pencil. Good. You've seen it was in there. There we go. So check your work. Make sure you can do that. I used a yellow pencil because I used white fabric. Now, find that hole and kind of put your thumb in it. Not all the way, but it just kind of tells you where that is. Rotate it around. So you see this? This should be roughly about right here. Same on this side. There. So now I should have that hole here and that hole here. This distance is equal to this distance. And I feed it onto this collar. Excuse the sewing terminology. Not quite sure what they call that really, but I'm sure somebody will correct me on the colorness of this. Make sure both pieces of thread are visible. Here's my hole. So if I sew a line, I'm not sewing over my hole. Put my foot arm down. Roll stitch twice. And I got my fingers in here. See it? Okay, so this is a good way to kind of feed this around. Again, there's my hole. There's my end of my thread. So I'm going to try to feed it so the two match as close as I can. And then reverse the stitch. Fabric or needle is outside the fabric. I can now lift up my arm and see how it's caught. Roll stitch just a little bit and you'll feel it ungrab or release. Get your threads and turn the whole thing right side out. Again, if you were using white thread, you wouldn't see any mistakes. Okay? All right, perfect. So somewhere in here, there should be a hole. See it right there? And right there. Okay, so we'll move on to the next step where we run a cord going into that area. So if you ever need to hem a pair of pants, I just taught you how to hem a pair of pants. Pretty neat, right? All right, now let's move on to the next step. All right, in this step you'll need a paper clip, and it needs to face in this direction. Okay, not this direction. This direction. You'll take a piece of string that is longer than the bag itself, and you'll run it through just like that. You'll leave a little bit of a tail. You do not have to tie it here. You can just leave the tail long. And then what you do, you take it and insert it into that hole. And hold it at the butt of the clip here, and then basically scrunch it onto the clip. Crunch it onto the clip. Scrunch, move. It gets a little hairy in this area when you're going all the way around, but if you sewed it right, it should. Again, you're always just bunging onto the clip and then pulling it just like that until you'll find that it pops out the other side. Again, don't lose hope here because you have to kind of weasel it around the hem. Okay, now you're going to pull it so that it comes all the way out, just like that. And I would grab both pieces of string in this case, start just kind of going like that Cool. So now you have a bag, just like that. And you're going to cut this. I should get scissors, right? And tie a knot. And there we go. So now you have a draw bag, or a swag bag, whatever you want to call it. And I just taught you how to fix your hoodies or your sweatpants. That's how you do it. Cool. So I hope you enjoyed how to make a swag bag or drawstring bag using a sewing machine. Have a good one.